The chamber was quiet, but it was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, like the air was holding its breath. Shadows moved across the walls where old alien symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat that had slowed almost to nothing. The key stood in the center. A long column of dark metal, spiraled with silver veins that shone softly, as if something alive was trapped inside. For 1,000 years, it had waited. For 1,000 years, it had refused them all. And once again, another alien lay dead at its base. The Valari soldiers dragged the body away without emotion. It was the 31st attempt this season, and like all the others, it ended in screams and fire. The victim's skin had burned to ash the moment they tried to turn the key. High above, on a raised platform, the Valari High Council watched in cold silence. They were tall, elegant creatures with sharp, glass-like skin and golden eyes that never blinked. Their leader, High Lord Drennick, gripped the rail with clawed hands. His voice broke the silence like a blade. Another failure. Another wasted life. No one replied. No one dared. Drennick's gaze shifted to the key. "It has been 1,000 years," he said slowly, his voice like grinding stone. 1,000 years of war. 1,000 years of blood. We have conquered empires. We have burned stars. All for this. He pointed to the silent artifact. And it mocks us still. His words echoed through the chamber like a curse dot at the far end of the hall. The heavy doors opened with a hiss. 2 soldiers dragged a figure inside a human. Shackled, bruised, his clothes torn, but still walking with stubborn strength. His name was Ethan Cole. He looked small compared to the towering Valari. His short brown hair was a mess, and blood streaked his face, but his blue eyes burned with defiance. "Why am I here?" Ethan spat, his voice rough from days without water. Drena. K. Descended the steps slowly, his tall frame casting a shadow over Ethan. "You, human, are here to serve a purpose. The last purpose you will ever serve." Ethan laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. You're gonna kill me in front of your shiny lamp thing?" Some of the Valari hissed at his tone, but Drennick smiled coldly. "Not quite. You will touch it." He pointed to the key. "You will try to turn it." Ethan stared at the glowing column, and then back at Drennick. "Why? So I can end up like your last guy? Crispy and dead?" Drennick stepped closer, lowering, his voice like a blade sliding through silk. "Because every species has tried, except yours." Ethan froze. The words hung heavy in the air. Drenak continued. 1,000 years. The greatest minds of the galaxy. All have failed. But you, your kind, came from a world too young, too primitive to matter. You were nothing. And yet, the key allowed you to come this far. Ethan snorted. Or maybe you're just desperate. Drennick's golden eyes burned brighter. Desperate. Enough to kill you slowly if you refuse. 2 soldiers shoved Ethan forward. He stumbled to the edge of the platform where the key waited, glowing softly, like an eye watching him. Heat rolled off it in waves, but there was no sound, no hum, just silence. Ethan's throat was dry. His heart pounded. He looked back at the Valari, their faces eager for him to die, then back at the key. "Touch it," Drennick commanded. Ethan forced a smile, though his hands trembled. "Sure. Why not? Let's see what happens." He raised his hand slowly, every nerve screaming at him to stop. The metal looked alive, its surface rippling like water. He hesitated an inch away, then muttered under his breath, "Here goes nothing." His fingers brushed the key. Nothing happened. No fire, no pain, no screams. Ethan blinked. Huh, that's disappointing. Then the key moved. The silver veins lit up like lightning, racing through storm clouds. A deep hum rolled through the chamber, shaking the walls. The key began to turn slowly, effortlessly, under Ethan's touch. The Valeri froze. Their golden eyes widened in disbelief. For 1,000 years, it had not moved. And now, a human had done it without even trying. Energy rippled across the floor, spreading through the ruins like a heartbeat returning to life. Lights blazed on walls that hadn't glowed in centuries. Symbols burned bright, whispering in a language no alien could speak. Ethan stumbled back. What the hell did I just do? The key locked into place with a thunderous click. The ground split with a sound like tearing metal. From the depths below, something stirred. Something old. The chamber doors slammed shut with a boom. Alarms blared through the alien city above. And then a voice spoke. It was deep, ancient, and it spoke in perfect English. Access granted. Ethan froze, his blood turning to ice. He looked around wildly, but the voice wasn't coming from the Valeri. It was coming from everywhere. The floor trembled. The key began to glow white-hot. Ethan whispered, "Oh, crap." The chamber walls screamed with light. Every ancient symbol burned like fire, and a deep hum shook the floor under Ethan's boots. Dust fell from the ceiling, as if the ruins were waking from 1,000-year sleep. Ethan stumbled back, shielding his eyes. What the hell? What did I do? The key glowed white-hot in the center, spinning slowly on its axis like a planet, turning in space. Waves of power rippled out, making the air shimmer like heat over asphalt. The Valeri soldiers dropped to their knees, not from reverence, but from shock. They could not move. They could only stare as something impossible happened. Before their golden eyes, High Lord Drenick gripped the railing so hard his claws cracked the metal. His voice, usually sharp and controlled, broke into a hiss. Impossible. The key clicked again, a heavy, final sound that echoed like a hammer striking stone. Then the deep voice spoke once more, rolling through the chamber like thunder. Access confirmed. Preparing initiation. The lights dimmed, then exploded in a wave of golden brilliance. Ethan swallowed hard, backing away from the key as fast as his legs allowed. "Okay, cool, yeah? That's enough magic for today?" he muttered, panic rising like a tide. "You guys hearing that, right?" "That wasn't just me?" No one answered. The Valeri looked frozen, terrified statues bathed in fireoighd. Then, suddenly, they moved. The soldiers surged forward like wolves, weapons raised, their armor humming with lethal energy. "Stop him." Drenick roared. His voice cracked like a whip through the hall. "Kill the human before it completes the sequence." Ethan spun around and bolted. He didn't think, he just ran. The chamber floor split behind him as glowing cracks chased. His steps. Heat blasted up like volcanic breath. The key was no longer silent. It pulsed, alive, and each pulse sent tremors through the ground. Bolts of plasma scorched the walls around him as the Valeri fired. Ethan dove behind a broken pillar, his lungs burning, heart slamming in his chest. "Why is it always me?" He gasped. "Why can't aliens ever kidnap some other guy?" A soldier lunged, its blade slicing through stone where his head had been a second before. Ethan rolled, grabbed a chunk of debris, and slammed it into the alien's knee joint. The creature screeched and collapsed, armor sparking. Ethan didn't wait. He ran again straight toward the only exit he could see. But the chamber doors, the ones they dragged him through, were sealed shut with glowing locks that looked like molten chains. He was trapped. "Great," Ethan groaned. "Really, really great." Behind him, the key began to rise. It lifted off. The floor like it was weightless, spinning faster now, glowing like a newborn star. The voice spoke again, calm and cold. Initiation complete. Unlocking substructure. The floor shook so hard, Ethan fell to his knees. The stone cracked open, splitting into rings, and from the depths below came a blinding light. It wasn't just light, it was a hole, a doorway, opening into something endless. Ethan stared into it and felt his soul tremble. It wasn't space. Wasn't sky, it was something older, something that made the universe look like a child's drawing. Drennick leaped down from the platform, his cloak whipping like fire. His voice was raw with fury. "Human, stop what you have done. You do not understand. You think?" Ethan shouted back, trying to keep his voice from shaking. "You think I understand any of this?" The Valeri leader pointed his blade at him. "If you value your life, turn it back." Ethan blinked at him, wild-eyed. "Turn it back?" "It's a glowing death circle in the floor. Where's the off button?" Then the floor beneath them dropped. The whole chamber tilted as massive. Stone slabs slid apart like puzzle pieces, revealing a black pit with no bottom. The key floated down into it like a falling star, its light pulling everything toward the abyss. Ethan grabbed a broken column, holding on with everything he had. Wind roared upward as the pit dragged the air down like a living thing. One Valeri soldier lost his grip and vanished into the black. Another followed, screaming until the sound was swallowed whole. Asterisk. Ethan's fingers burned against the stone. His muscles screamed. His heart hammered so loud, drowned out the gunfire and the roar of the pit. And then, shadow moved in the light below. That it was not human. It was not Valeri. It was something else. Something vast. The voice spoke again, but this time it wasn't just sound. It was inside Ethan's head, soft and cold like ice on his bones. "You are chosen." Ethan's breath caught. He wanted to scream, but the word froze in his throat. The key sank fully into the abyss, and with it, the floor gave way. Ethan's hand slipped, his body launched into the void, tumbling headfirst into endless light. His last thought before darkness swallowed him was simple, raw, and human. "Oh, hell." Ethan opened his eyes expecting darkness, but instead he saw a sky that didn't exist. Above him stretched a horizon of light, not blue, not black. It was something else, something alive, shifting like an ocean made of stars. The ground beneath him wasn't stone or soil. It was glass, smooth and glowing, showing galaxies swirling beneath his feet as if he stood on the skin of the universe itself. He sat up slowly, his breath shaking. His clothes were torn, his hands bleeding from the fall, but he was alive. Somehow, he was alive. "What is this?" he whispered. His voice sounded small, like a child lost in a cathedral dot. Then came the sound, not a voice in the air, but in his mind. Cold, deep, endless, like mountains speaking. Human. Ethan froze, his throat locked. Who said that? The voice rolled through his head like thunder over an empty plain. "You have turned the key." He spun around, heart pounding. There was nothing, no walls, no ceiling, just infinity stretching in every direction. "Great, I'm hearing things. This is fine," he muttered, his voice cracking. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time, almost like a whisper. Against his soul, "We have waited 1,000 years." Ethan's jaw clenched. Waited for what? "For you." The words struck like a hammer. His knees went weak, and he laughed a shaky, broken laugh. "Me? No, you've got the wrong guy. I'm nobody. I fix ships, I drink bad coffee. The ground rippled like water under his feet. Stars shifted below, forming shapes, symbols, faces he didn't recognize. It was like watching a story written across eternity. War, fire, whole civilizations, burning to ash. Towers taller than mountains crumbling in silence. Then came an image that stole his breath. A door, glowing white, surrounded by shadows that looked like screaming souls. The voice boomed, filling his bones. The door of eternity opens only for the species worthy to stand beyond death. Others failed. You have not. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. His voice broke into a whisper. You mean, I passed your test? There was silence. Then the voice said something that made his stomach twist. The test begins. Now, the ground split. Light surged upward, blinding. Ethan stumbled back, shielding his eyes as pillars of crystal rose from the endless glass. The calm emptiness became a storm of energy and sound. And then he wasn't alone anymore, docked from the far edge of the glowing plain. Something moved toward him. A figure, tall and slender, her body glowing faintly blue as if carved from living. Glass. Her eyes burned like molten silver. For a second, Ethan thought it was another vision. But then she spoke, her voice sharp, real, and angry. You fool! Do you even know what you've done? Ethan staggered back, blinking against the light. What are you? The woman stopped a few feet away, her face hard, her hair flowing like liquid light. Her armor was unlike the Valeri soldiers' sleeker, older, marked with symbols that pulsed faintly. I'm the one who kept this place sealed, she hissed, until you opened it with your clumsy human hands. Ethan raised his hands defensively. Hey, for the record, I didn't want to open anything. Your big guys upstairs made me touch the glowy thing. Her jaw tightened. The key chose you. That means you're bound to it now. Ethan laughed bitterly. Yeah, okay, sure, sounds great. Except I have no idea what that means. She stepped closer, and for the first time, Ethan saw something strange in her eyes, not just anger. Something like fear. It means, she said quietly, that the galaxy is no longer safe. The light around them dimmed suddenly. A shadow moved across the glowing horizon, vast and shapeless, blotting out whole stars as it passed. The ground shuddered under Ethan's feet. He swallowed hard. You, tell me that's just a really big cloud. The woman didn't look at him. Her silver eyes stayed on the darkness spreading across the sky. Her voice dropped to a whisper so soft he almost didn't hear it. No, it woke up. Ethan's blood turned to ice. What woke up? The voice in his head returned, louder than before, shaking the very air. The cycle begins. The judgment comes. The horizon cracked like glass under pressure. A roar rose from beyond the stars, a sound older than creation. Ethan's legs went weak. He grabbed the woman's arm. Okay, new plan. You seem to know things. How do we survive this? She looked at him, her face pale with dread. You don't understand, human. You didn't just open a door. She turned her gaze back to the spreading shadow. Her voice trembled as she spoke the last words. You opened the end? The ground split apart beneath them. Light and shadow exploded upward, swallowing everything in a storm of power. Ethan felt himself falling again, but this time he wasn't. Falling alone. Asterisk wind roared past his ears like 1,000 screaming voices. He flailed helplessly, spinning through black and white streaks of light that twisted like serpents around him. His lungs burned as he tried to breathe, but the air felt thick, heavy, electric dot. And then something caught him. Not ground, not stone. Hands, strong, slender hands wrapped around his arm and yanked him from the free fall. His body jerked hard, and for a second he couldn't breathe at all. When he opened his eyes, Kayla was there, silver eyes glowing in the chaos, her face tight with focus. Hold on. She shouted over the roaring void. I am holding on. Ethan yelled back, clinging to her with everything he had. Where the hell are we? Kayla didn't answer. She was pulling him toward something, a shimmering ledge, floating in the darkness like an island in a black sea. The wind wasn't wind anymore. It was energy, whipping around them like a living storm dot. With one last surge of strength, Kayla threw him forward. Ethan slammed onto the ledge, pain shooting through his ribs. He gasped for air, coughing hard, but he was alive. Kayla landed beside him, her movements graceful despite the chaos. She dropped to one knee, breathing heavy, her blue armor glowing faintly in the stormlight. Ethan pushed himself up, his hands shaking. "Okay," he panted. "I have questions. First one, what the hell just happened?" Kayla shot him a sharp glance. "You woke the core." "Great," Ethan muttered. "Sounds terrifying. What's the core?" Kayla didn't look at him. Her gaze stayed fixed on the storm churning below. "The heart of the architect's seal. It has slept for 1,000 years until you touched the key." Ethan ran his hands over his face, trying to calm his racing mind. "Right. And now it's awake? Which means what? Bad things? End of the world things?" Kala's jaw tightened. "Not the end of a world, the end of all worlds." Ethan stared at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. Lightning cracked in the void, illuminating something massive moving in the darkness below, a shadow so large it swallowed the storm itself. Ethan froze, his stomach twisting. "What is that?" Kayla didn't blink. "Judgment." The word dropped like a blade between them. Before Ethan could speak, the ledge beneath them shuddered. Cracks split the glowing surface, and light bled from the fractures like molten metal. Kayla grabbed his arm and pulled him to his feet. "Move. Now." "Where?" Ethan shouted, his voice breaking as the ledge crumbled into the abyss. Kayla pointed to a narrow bridge of crystal that stretched from the ledge into the storm, pulsing faintly with light. "That way." "Hurry!" Ethan didn't argue. He ran, boots slipping on the slick glass, heart pounding like a drum. Behind him, the ledge shattered completely and vanished into the swirling black. The bridge trembled under their weight. Below, the storm raged, and in its depths, the colossal shadow moved closer, each shift sending shockwaves through the void. Ethan glanced back and instantly regretted it. The shape had eyes, now 2 suns burning in the dark, staring straight at him. "Kayla," he yelled, terror clawing up his throat. "It's following us." Kayla didn't look back. "Don't stop." They reached the other side as the bridge cracked apart behind them. Kayla shoved Ethan through an archway made of silver light. The moment he crossed it, the sound vanished. The storm was gone. The bridge was gone. The endless void gone. Ethan collapsed on smooth stone, gasping like a drowning man. For a moment, all he could hear was his heartbeat. When he looked up, he was in a hall unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall pillars of crystal reached into darkness, glowing faintly like frozen lightning. Strange machines floated in the air, humming softly. Symbols ran along the walls, alive with pale fire. It felt holy and wrong. Kayla stood near him, her face pale, her armor cracked from the fall. For the first time, she looked afraid. "What is this place?" Ethan whispered. Kayla didn't answer right away. Her silver eyes scanned the hall like she was seeing ghosts. Then finally she spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "The vault of eternity." Ethan blinked. Sounds ominous. Kayla's gaze locked on his, sharp and cold. "This is where species are judged, where they pass or burn." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. "Wait, you mean humanity? You're saying this thing, this vault, it's judging us?" Kayla nodded slowly. "And the choice is yours." Ethan stared at her, words dying on his tongue. His chest tightened as the weight of it hit him like a hammer. One wrong move, and his entire species was done. Before he could respond, the ground trembled again softly this time, like a heartbeat under the stone. The glowing symbols along the walls flared brighter, and the air grew warmed out. Then the voice returned, rolling through the hall like distant thunder. "Human, step forward." Ethan's stomach knotted. His legs felt like lead. Kayla turned to him, her face unreadable. "It begins now." Asterisk, he stood frozen in the vault, his breath cold in the glowing silence. Pillars of light stretched into infinity. The air tasted like metal, thick with the hum of machines older than stars. And then came the sound, a deep rumble that shook the hall like a heartbeat growing louder. Kayla's silver eyes darted to the far end of the chamber. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "Look!" The walls weren't walls anymore. They had become windows vast, shimmering, opening to the void of space. Ethan's jaw dropped. He saw stars, countless and bright, until one flared white and exploded. Not like a supernova. No fire, no light. It simply vanished, snuffed out like a candle. Then another, and another. Entire star systems winking out of existence in cold silence. Ethan staggered back, his voice cracking. "What the hell is happening?" Kayla didn't look away from the dying stars. Her face was pale, her jaw tight. "The core has started the purge." "The what?" "The architects built the vault as a final judgment," she said, her voice low and bitter. "If a species is found unworthy, their light is erased. Their worlds, their suns, all gone." Ethan felt the floor tilt beneath him, though it didn't move. His stomach knotted into ice. "You're saying? This voice, just decided to start deleting the galaxy?" Kayla turned to him, her silver eyes blazing. "No, human. It's waiting for you to decide. That is the law of the key. The one who turns it commands the choice." Ethan stared at her, numb. "You mean me?" "Yes." He laughed, a short, broken sound that didn't sound like laughter at all. "That's insane. I'm nobody. I can't. You already have." The voice thundered before he could speak again. It filled the vault, the air, his bones. "Human, the choice stands before you. Accept and ascend. Refuse and the galaxy ends." Ethan's throat closed. His words came out hoarse. "What? What does ascend mean?" "It means you will carry the weight of eternity," the voice said, calm as death. "You will guard the door until time rots away." Ethan froze. His hands trembled. "You mean I'd never go back? Never see Earth again?" "Yes." He staggered back like the word had struck him in the chest. Never go home. Never feel rain on his skin. Never hear laughter that wasn't in his memory. Kayla stepped closer, her voice softer now. "Ethan, listen to me. If you refuse, this purge won't stop. The architects will erase everything Valari, human, every species in the map of stars. It will all vanish." Ethan looked at her, anger flaring through the fear. "Why me? Why not you? You're smarter, stronger. You actually know what any of this means." Kyla's expression darkened with something like shame. "Because the key never wanted us. It rejected my kind long before your species crawled from its oceans." She hesitated, then whispered, "You are different, Ethan? Maybe. Better." The word hit him harder than any threat. Better? He'd never felt better than anything. Not back home, where he was just another man fixing broken engines in a forgotten station. Not in the war that broke his ship and left him stranded. And now the galaxy was asking him to be. More. Ethan laughed again, bitter, hollow. "So my options are, 1. Become some immortal jailer for the rest of time, or 2. Doom every living thing to oblivion?" Kayla didn't answer. She didn't need to. Ethan turned away, running both hands through his hair, heart hammering against his ribs. He stared out at the windows, the stars falling, one by one, like dying embers in a cold wind dot. His chest ached. He thought of earth-blue skies, warm sunlight. He thought of his mother's old voice messages, still saved on his wrist comb. He thought of the stupid dream he once had, a little repair shop on Mars, quiet and simple, all gone. Unless he stayed, he clenched his fists so tight his nails cut his skin. "I can't do this," he whispered. Kayla stepped closer, her voice low, steady. "You can." He turned to her, his throat tight. "Why do you care?" She met his eyes, and for the first time, her voice broke. "Because if you fail, I lose everything too." For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. And then the vault shook violently, throwing them both to the ground. The glowing pillars cracked. A sound like tearing metal screamed through the air. The voice roared, louder than before, shaking the hall to its core. "Human, choose now." Ethan pushed himself up on trembling arms. His breath came in ragged gasps. The windows of light shattered, revealing nothing but a storm of darkness outside. Something vast moved beyond the shards, its shape blotting out entire constellations. Kayla grabbed his arm, her silver eyes wide with fear and something else, something raw. "Ethan, whatever you do, don't let them win." He opened his mouth to speak, but the floor cracked open beneath him, and a column of white fire shot up, wrapping around him like chains of light. His scream vanished into the roar. Asterisk white fire wrapped around him like living chains, dragging him into the core. His skin burned, but not with pain. It was something deeper, something that clawed into his soul, pulling pieces of him apart and putting them back together in ways he didn't understand. When his eyes opened, he was standing, not in the vault, not anywhere real. Before him stretched a black horizon, endless and silent. Floating in the void was a single throne made of light, carved from storms and stars. On that throne sat no one, until it spoke. Human. The voice didn't come from the throne. It came from everywhere, the air, the ground, his own heartbeat. It was calm, cold, eternal. You hold the key. You hold the verdict. Accept and ascend. Refuse and all ends. Ethan's hands shook as he looked down. The key wasn't a column anymore. It was a shape of pure white light, spinning slowly in his palm like a tiny sun. He almost dropped it. He swallowed hard. His throat felt like stone. What happens if I say no? The purge continues. The stars fall until silence remains. Ethan's breath caught. And if I say yes, then life endures, but you will not. His chest tightened. You mean I die? No, death is mercy. You will not die. You will become the gatekeeper. Bound here, eternal, alone. The word hit him like a fist. Alone, forever, a prison made of infinity. Ethan's legs trembled. I can't do that. I can't. You can. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was a weight pressing down on his soul, crushing every breath. Ethan's mind raced. Earth, blue skies, the smell of rain. His father's old wrench in his hand, his mother's laugh. He saw all of it flashes of a life that suddenly felt too small, too fragile dot, and then he saw Kayla, silver eyes, fierce and unyielding. The way her voice cracked when she said, "Don't let them win." He clenched his fists until his nails cut his palms. His eyes burned not from the light, but from something hot and human rising in his chest. Why me? He whispered. Why not one of you? For the first time, the voice changed. It softened. Because your kind is not perfect. You are flawed. Yet you choose, you break. Yet you rise again. The others sought power. You seek purpose. That is why the key turned for you. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. He stared at the tiny spinning sun in his hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat, as if it knew what he would do. He thought of the Valari warships above, their guns ready to burn planets for control of this secret. He thought of Kayla, her fear, her hope, her anger. He thought of billions of lives, most of whom would never know his name. And then he decided. He took a deep breath, his voice steady now. Fine. You want a gatekeeper? You got one. The voice thundered through the void. So be it. The key dissolved in his hand, melting into white fire that surged into his veins. Ethan screamed as the light poured into him, rewriting everything he was. His skin cracked with lines of glowing energy. His eyes burned until they weren't eyes anymore. They were stars. Pain didn't matter. Fear didn't matter. Only the weight, the crushing, eternal weight of the door settling on his soul. The void shattered like glass. He saw everything. Every world. Every star. He felt the hum of galaxies, the whispers of life in 10,000 tongues. He felt time stretch out before him like an endless road with no horizon. And then, silence. He stood alone in a place that wasn't space, wasn't time. Just light and shadow, and the door, a monolith taller than mountains, glowing with power no mind could hold. Chains of light wrapped around his arms, not cruel, not gentle, just absolute dot. Ethan lifted his head, his voice low, rough, but unbroken. Guess this is home now. But then a sound pierced the silence. Soft, fragile. A voice. Asterisk. Ethan. His head snapped up. Kayla stood at the edge of the light, her silver eyes wide, her face pale with awe and fear. She shouldn't be here, no one should. And yet she was. Kyla? His voice cracked like a boy's, raw and human. Even now. How? I followed you, she whispered, stepping closer. I broke the seal before it closed. I'm not leaving you here. Something inside Ethan twisted pain sharper than any chain. He wanted to hold her, to feel something, human again. But when he reached for her, his hand passed through like mist. Her breath caught, and for the first time, her voice trembled. No, no, please. The light between them grew brighter, forcing her back. Kyla, Ethan said softly, his voice breaking like glass. Go, live. Tell them, we're worth saving. The chains tightened. The door flared like a second sun. Kayla screamed his name as the light swallowed her, and Ethan closed his eyes. Asterisk, the door stood like a god in the infinite white chains, of radiance twisting across its surface. The core's storm had gone silent. The stars had stopped falling. The galaxy was safe. But Ethan Cole was not. He hung in the center of the light, his body no longer flesh, but something between man and eternity. Glowing veins pulsed under his skin like rivers of fire. His eyes burned like twin suns. He wasn't human anymore, not fully. He was the gatekeeper, and he was alone, Dot, or so he thought. Soft sound broke the silence. Footsteps. Impossible footsteps echoing in a place where sound shouldn't exist. Ethan turned his head, slow, heavy. Like moving through water. Kayla stood there, still, Kayla, silver eyes blazing, armor cracked and scorched from her fight to reach him. She looked so small against the endless light, yet she didn't flinch. How? Ethan's voice cracked like broken glass. Even now, even here, it sounded human. Kayla's lips curved in a faint, defiant smile. You really think I'd let you do this alone? Ethan felt something twist deep inside him, a memory of warmth, of laughter, of the weight of a hand that was in chains. For a heartbeat, he almost believed this wasn't real. You can't stay, he said, his voice raw. This place will. I don't care, Kayla cut in, stepping closer. You gave up everything for a galaxy that would never know your name, for a species that didn't even know you mattered. I'm not letting that sacrifice vanish into silence. Ethan shook his head, pain in his glowing eyes. Kyla, you'll die. Then I die, she said simply. He wanted to hold her. God, how he wanted that. But when he reached out, his hand still passed through hers like mist. The chains pulsed tighter around him, dragging him deeper into the heart of the door. Kayla's eyes burned with fury and something human. There has to be a way. Tell me. There isn't, Ethan whispered. This is the price. I pay it, so no one else has to. Kayla's breath hitched. For a long moment, the silence between them felt heavier than the chains. Then, slowly, she lowered her head. When she spoke again, her voice was soft, breaking like a wounded song. Do you hate me for following you? Ethan closed his eyes. No, he said quietly. I think I needed to see someone still cared. Kayla looked up sharply. Her voice trembled. I care, more than you'll ever know. The light flared brighter, forcing her to step back. Ethan felt the chains sink deeper, pulling him toward the door's core. His voice grew faint, like wind fading into a storm. Kayla, promise me something. Her throat tightened. Anything. Tell them, he whispered. Tell them what humans are. That we break, but we don't quit. That we bleed, but we don't bow. Tears blurred her silver eyes as she nodded. I will. I swear it. The door's hum rose into a roar. The final seal was closing. The chains yanked Ethan forward, wrapping his arms, his chest, his very soul in ribbons of white fire. Kayla cried out, lunging toward him, but her hands passed through again. The light was too strong now. It burned like a second sun, swallowing. Everything. Ethan gave her one last look, a smile, small and human, carved in pain and defiance. Goodbye, Kayla. And then the light claimed him. The blast shook the vault. Kayla was thrown back as the door flared like a newborn star. For a moment, all she saw was white, endless, and blinding. When her vision cleared, the space where Ethan had been was empty. Door stood silent, its glow fading to a soft, eternal blue. Chains of light coiled around it like veins of frozen fire. The key was gone. So was Ethan. Kayla fell to her knees, her breath coming in ragged sobs. For a long time, she just knelt there, staring at the door, her fists trembling against the cold floor. Then she rose. Her silver eyes burned, not with grief alone, but with purpose. She walked to the base of the door and pressed her hand against its smooth, glowing surface. It pulsed once, faintly, like a heartbeat. And in that pulse, a voice whispered not in sound, but in her mind. A voice she knew, still here. Her breath caught. Tears fell down her cheeks, but her lips curved into a smile that was fierce and unbroken. Then I'll keep my promise, she whispered. When Kayla emerged from the vault, the galaxy was in chaos. War fleets hung in shattered silence. There, weapons dead, their engines cold. The purge had stopped. The stars had stopped falling, and a story began to spread. Story about a human who turned the key when no one else could. A story about a man who gave everything so life could go on. They called him many things, the gatekeeper, the eternal watcher. But Kayla, she called him by his name, and every time she looked at the stars, she swore she could feel him there, watching, waiting. Not a god, not an alien, a human, the human who turned the key, a promise kept, a legend born, the end.